Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be discussing food dye sensitivity and how it relates to Tourette syndrome. So a food dye sensitivity is a form of brain allergy. So if you have a food dye sensitivity, consuming food dyes would trigger neurological inflammation and complex neurological and psychiatric symptoms, and these symptoms can include rage attacks, anxiety, depression, emotional problems, meltdowns, tic fits and tic attacks, and a variety of other issues like insomnia and stuff as well, and hyperactivity. And everyone with a food dye sensitivity is affected differently. So for me, it causes very severe reactions. So if I eat food dyes, then I'll have constant crying, a feeling of extreme terror and panic, chattering teeth, shaking, anxiety, and lots of complex problems that it triggers. But I know other people who have a food dye sensitivity who are affected very differently, and it might trigger hyperactivity or maybe some emotional problems like depression and stuff. So I would say that if you're experiencing any of those issues, then it might be helpful to cut out food dyes. And food dye sensitivity is more common in people with Tourette syndrome, autism, ADHD, and emotional difficulties. And in people with Tourette syndrome, it is actually a common trigger of tic fits and tic tacs. And a tic fit / tic tac is an outburst of severe tics that can look like a seizure, and it's quite complex because you might not, in a tic tac, you might not be able to walk, and some people can't even talk in a tic tac, so it is very frightening to experience. So food dye sensitivities are somewhat controversial, but if you experience it, it definitely is a real thing. And for me, it's absolutely no coincidence that every time I eat food dyes, 6 hours afterwards, I will experience an extreme reaction to the food dye, and it only takes a tiny amount. And all the other times when I don't eat food dyes, I'm fine. And luckily now, I haven't accidentally eaten a food dye in over a year, so I've been fine for about a year. But I think it's really important to know about this, because once I was put on a medication, it was a green medication, and I had a very severe reaction to it, and it was the worst week of my life because I was constantly crying, and I had numbness in half my body and extreme terror and anxiety. And I had to go and get taken off that medication. And then I was put on the same medication but without the food dyes in, and luckily I had no reaction to that and it actually quite helped. But it's quite important to know about this because it can really help some people. And I know that it wasn't the medication that was the reaction, and it was food dyes because the food dye was the only ingredient that changed, so it is absolutely no coincidence. My food dye sensitivity was found when I was 3 years old because as a 3-year-old I had very extreme meltdowns and emotional problems, and my mum did some research and found that food dyes can trigger emotional and behavioural problems, especially in children, but adults can have it as well. So we cut out food dyes, and immediately, I was 3 years old, I didn't know that these were being taken out of my diet. I didn't even see a difference in my diet, but my parents cut out food dyes, and immediately I was like a different child. I was no longer having these meltdowns or anything. And some people do grow out of their food dye sensitivity. However, for me, it has got more severe with age, so my reactions have got more extreme. Luckily, as I said, I haven't accidentally eaten a food dye in every year, so I've been fine. If I do eat it, it's a very severe reaction, and I'm honestly so grateful that my mum found it when I was really young, because otherwise I could be dead because how severe it is. Because if someone said they'd pay me £1 million to eat a food dye, I just wouldn't do it, because the reaction is absolutely terrifying. It's out-of-body sensations and a feeling of extreme terror, and I shake and my teeth chatter together, and I have never experienced something like that other than the food dye. So it was so horrible because it's triggering inflammation in the brain. And some people say, how can you say you have a food dye sensitivity if you haven't had an allergy test? But it is pretty obvious that every time I eat food dye, 6 hours later, I'll have a severe reaction. And pretty much you can't really have an allergy test for food dyes all that much. It's very difficult to find and very expensive. So it's kind of common sense that if something triggers a severe reaction, you just don't eat it. And also, allergy tests aren't available to everyone as well. So I would say that if you are experiencing tic fits, tic tacs, or rage attacks, or extreme anxiety and emotional problems, or hyperactivity, then definitely try and cut out food dyes. It doesn't work for everyone, because there are other things that can trigger neurological inflammation and reactions, such as dairy can trigger inflammation in the brain, gluten, they're the most common, but pretty much any food allergy can trigger inflammation in the brain. But then you can also look into other things like autoimmune conditions like panda syndrome and PANS. But I think food dye sensitivity for me is really important to raise awareness of, because it absolutely saved my life knowing this information. So common food dyes that trigger reaction are Allura red, annatto, I think beetroot red, sunset yellow, copper complexes of chlorophylline, and a variety of other colours. Basically, I react to every single artificial food dye and one natural food dye, which is annatto, because you can have an annatto allergy, and it's actually really common for people with a sensitivity to artificial dyes to also have sensitivity to annatto, even though it's naturally comes from a plant. However, food dyes I can have are like paprika and anthocyanins and stuff like that, because they come from vegetables. But it's also really important to literally read the back of ingredients packets like religiously, because food dyes hide in everything. They're in pretty much everything, not just things that you'd expect it to be, but even simple foods they can have food dyes in, because they dye everything. But yeah, obviously food dyes don't cause problems, like they don't cause brain conditions. However, if you have something like Tourette's or ADHD or autism, then you are more likely to have a severe reaction with extra symptoms from these food dyes. So I really hope this video has helped, and share your experience down below if you have a food dye sensitivity, or if you have any other food reactions that trigger neurological or psychiatric reactions, because I would love to hear from you. And if you would like to know more, then you can look on the Facebook page called Dye Food Dyes, because they post a lot of information about food dye sensitivity and food dye allergies. And you can also look at the Feingold Association website and the ACN LATITUDES website. I hope this video has helped. Bye bye.